So we're at Jack Shainman Gallery here, and this is a gallery that's now located on Lafayette Street in Tribeca. It is in the old clock tower building, and it used to be the New York Life Insurance that occupied this incredible space. It was built in the end of the 19th century and has now been renovated by the gallery, and this is its inaugural show, which presents Nick Cave, a Chicago-based artist, a very well-known and very well-regarded and artist who just had multiple museum shows. The last one was at the Guggenheim Museum, has a lot more coming up in 2025, and this is the works that he presents to inaugurate this space, and you can see the monumentality of the sculpture in front of us. There's actually two bodies of work here. One is called the Amalgams, this is Origin, and the other body of work which you see on the walls are his Graphts, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But here we have this monumental 26-foot tall sculpture of a male figure, and the figures that you'll see are always based on Nick Cave's own body. They're cast from his body, and they comment on traditional sculpture that we see outside, that we see in commemorating kind of big events or celebrating and highlighting certain important individuals, not always perhaps correctly. But in this case, he stands more like a god, a nature god. From his body, we don't have a head, it's a headless body, but from the shoulders you have all these branches growing out with birds perched on them, and mushrooms and flowers and all kinds of flora and fauna growing all around and encrusting the surface. It's an incredible sculpture, and I hope to see it in public spaces, perhaps in gardens, a sculpture garden somewhere. The first one, in fact, is going to be installed in Michigan. So that's very exciting to see in the years to come. This is just the first iteration of this body of work, of this kind of sculptures, Amalgams, the Origin. I love that it goes all the way up to the ceiling, and it's just towering above us all. You can see in relationship the scale to just human size. Outdoors, of course, it's going to take a different kind of nuanced look, but I could imagine it standing in front of Central Park, the entry to Central Park. It would be quite an incredible sight. It's one of 3 sculptures in this series that he's presenting. The second one is here on the floor. And this one almost greets us in this unexpected way, because we suddenly see life-size figures that are lying down on the ground. They also have no heads. One of them becomes a funnel, very much evoking the Nick Cave's famous sound suits, which this body of work comes out of, this most iconic works that he has done in the past few decades called sound suits. The first one inspired by the Rodney King police brutality and riots, when he created the first sound suit out of twigs. And these are 2 bodies lying down, face down. We don't see their faces. It's almost like it's a memorial. You have this bronze forms, and they're juxtaposed to the delicate flowers, the floral elements coming out of the funnel, some of them in this sort of gilt metal material and others in porcelain. So again, Nick Cave always uses found objects in all of his work, something that denotes a kind of historical reference, particularly as it relates to class structure, to wealth, to ambition perhaps, to money and quality and status. So he's bringing both of these very unlikely elements together in this sculpture. That's just, I think, a very powerful rendition of, again, as a memorial to perhaps violence enacted upon the Black bodies. So the dimensional sculptures are paired in this exhibition with the wall pieces that you see on in the main room, and also it continues in the second gallery if you will come and instead of go on to see it. And these works are called the Graphts, and the Graphts are also a combination of different elements. Again, collected elements, just as we saw in the floor sculpture with these delicate flowers and the kind of tendrils and branches and leaves that are gilt metal, particularly derived from what you see in candelabras, in old-fashioned 19th century antique candelabras, and these are found objects the way that he likes to have a collective memory, perhaps of culture and artifacts from different time periods. And they're all brought together, kind of woven in this tapestry with the serving trays that you have embedded into the panels. And the serving trays, on one hand, they denote, again, a class structure, who is getting served, and on the other hand, they're also sort of asking the question as to who is doing the serving, that there is this combination of class structures that are being brought in and reminded us of in this particular work. You have flowers that overtake the entire surface here as well. And then in the largest work, you have an additional element, which is the needle point. He combines the contemporary needle point that represents himself. It's his face. It's kind of autobiographical in that way. It's a self-portraiture. That's a contemporary needle point. And it's combined here with found needlepoint that traditionally comes from women's work. Needlepoint, something that is being done by, has been done by women for generations. Women who were staying home, that sort of were of a particular class, a particular element of society. And so you have something that references women's work, something that references class structure, and also points to his own background in creating work by hand, manual labor here. You have flowers that represent, in this particular one, the flowers of the various states of the United States. So it's very much a portrait of America in that way. On the left, you have this very glorious, very elaborate, very effusive kind of collection of the porcelain flowers and branches coming out. That's combined with the flower trays. And the serving trays use the word serve, and the word serve is also used in ballroom culture. That means to strike a pose, serve a pose, present yourself in a certain way. So in that way, all of these works have an incredible juxtaposition, a tapestry of sorts of culture, of commentary on our society, on our class structure, on his own sort of history within that, and on labor and an embellishment and what it costs and what it represents. So you have needlepoint here, the serving trays, his own self-portraiture, and then you have the sculptural elements coming out, growing out of that surface, the way that you had the branches growing out of the amalgam, the origin sculpture, all of this being interconnected here very beautifully and powerfully.